Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm not going to be focusing on any specific type of alcohol in particular. This video is going to be all about piña, or otherwise known as pineapple. So in the entire cocktail world, there's no more one ingredient that I'm more passionate about than freshly juiced pineapple juice, because the quality of your pineapple juice will absolutely make or break your cocktail. So I haven't tried a lot of different brands of pineapple juice, but a lot of them for the most part are just overly sickly sweet, and they just ruin your cocktails. So I'll show you how I made my pineapple juice. So I have this Rebel juicer. It costs around $200, so it's a bit pricey, but it's totally worth the money. So what I did to make this pineapple juice is that I bought a pineapple, I cut off the bark, and then I diced it up. And then I put it through the juicer in multiple batches. And then I bottled it, and then I created a beautiful, frothy, freshly juiced pineapple juice. So if you don't want to spend $200 on a juicer, you can buy a NutriBullet. It's a lot more cost effective. The only thing is that it doesn't separate the fibers from the juice, so it'll take you a little bit of time to separate the juice from the fibers. So there's a third option, using a muddler. If you don't want to use a juicer or a NutriBullet, you can just use a muddler by muddling the fresh pineapple inside of another vessel, and then extracting the juice, and then pouring it into your cocktail. So there you have 3 different options to get freshly juiced pineapple into your cocktails. Stop using store-bought pineapple juice, they ruin your cocktails. It's a game changer using freshly juiced pineapple in your cocktails. So I guess I'll give a brief history on the pineapple, because that's what I do on this channel. So the pineapple actually originated in the Amazon rainforest near the borders of Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. And from there on, they made their way into Central America and into the Caribbean. And then the Spanish and the Portuguese brought pineapple to Europe in the 15 and 1600s, where it was seen as a symbol of luxury. And another fun fact, pineapple, which is very popular in Hawaii, but it's not native to Hawaii, it was brought there by the Spanish in 1813. So the first cocktail that I'm going to do is the Piña Colada. So I'm going to do my best to stay away from mainstream cocktails on this channel that everybody knows. Whether you're a big fan of the Piña Colada or not, I thought what better cocktail to do than the Piña Colada, because it has such a big volume of pineapple juice. So what better way to show off freshly juiced pineapple juice in a cocktail than a Piña Colada. So this cocktail was invented in 1954 by Ramon Manchito at the Caribe Hilton in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I was just in Puerto Rico a few months back, and I had the opportunity to visit this hotel, and it was a really cool experience. So to get to the bar, you walk through the main lobby, and the bar is located towards the back, overlooking the pool and the ocean. And as you walk around the bar, you see the history of the cocktail and its ingredients. And it was a really cool experience to have the Piña Colada at the birthplace of where it was invented. And I have to say, it was a pretty good drink. So for this cocktail, I'm going to use the original ratio just to test it out and see how good it can be with a freshly juiced pineapple. There's a lot of different variations on this drink. A lot of people are maybe using a different type of rum. They're maybe lowering the pineapple juice content, and they're even adding lime juice just to give it a little bit more acidity to the drink. So I'm going to be using a white Puerto Rican rum. So this is the Havana Club from Puerto Rico, not the Cuban one. It's not available in Canada, but you can get it all throughout the US. If you're in Canada, you can use the Bacardi White, or I suggest using the Plantation 3-Star. This would be a really good rum to use in this one. I think it would give the cocktail a little bit more character. It's got some of those pot still Jamaican notes, and it's got notes of overripe pineapple that I think is going to go really well with this cocktail. So we're going to start off with crushing some ice. Then just let all that stress out. So you don't want to create snow, you just want it to be really crushed up. And we're going to start off with 2 ounces of a white Puerto Rican rum. A full 6 ounces of pineapple juice. 1 ounce of heavy cream. and 1 ounce of Coco Lopez. Just gonna eyeball it here. So I recommend using Coco Lopez because it's a Puerto Rican cream of coconut, but you can use whatever one you want. So this cocktail calls to be flash blended using a Hamilton Beach flash blender, but those can be quite pricey. So what I have instead is a milk frother. It only costs about $20, so it's really cost effective. So most flash blended drinks call to be flash blended for about 5 seconds. With this one, I do it for 10 seconds for 2 reasons. So this one only has 1 spindle, whereas the Hamilton Beach has 2. And secondly, this one isn't as powerful, so I give it maybe a little more, 5 seconds or so. So we're spending money on the juicer, but we're saving money by using a milk frother. So just add in 1 scoop of crushed ice. And we'll give this a flash blend for about 10 seconds. So I'm going to serve this in a pineapple glass. This one I got from Coops & Collins in San Diego. It's really hard to find in Canada. You can find it on Amazon, but it's ridiculously expensive. You don't have to serve this in a pineapple mug. You can serve it in a Collins glass or whatever large vessel that you have. So whenever I'm serving a cocktail in a glass with crushed ice, I like to put a little bit of crushed ice into the glass just so that it layers a little bit nicely. Here I'm not going to put a lot of crushed ice because there's a large volume of drink in the glass. Okay, and we're just going to open pour. Then we are going to garnish with some pineapple fronds. It's the first time I'm using these straws on the channel, so this is from Montreal, I believe. This is called The Future is Bamboo. So these are really cool straws. So all of these straws say the future is bamboo, and on the other side they'll say something clever. Today I'm going to go with Viva Bamboo. Put the straw in, top off with some more crushed ice. And there you have the Piña Colada. Okay, cheers. It's more like a smoothie. It's not overly sweet, which is really good. You really get that good pineapple coming through. So the next cocktail that I'm going to do is one of the most influential cocktails of all time. So this cocktail was invented in what I call the dead cocktail era. It's not an official term, but it's broadly accepted within the cocktail industry that this time in cocktail history was where cocktails were at its lowest peak. So what was happening at this time was a perfect storm of multiple different things working against the cocktail industry. And this era started at the beginning of the 1970s and lasted until the end of the 1990s. So what was happening is that the baby boomers were starting to reach adulthood, and they were starting to rebel and see the world in a different way than their parents. One of the biggest hits was tiki culture, because tiki was all about Polynesian pop art, and at the same time the US is going to war in the Southeast Pacific, which kind of left a sour taste in the mouth of a lot of these baby boomers. The other thing that was happening is that the beginning of the 1970s was the beginning of the disco era. So long gone were the days of sitting down at a nice cocktail bar, having a cocktail before, during, or after dinner. And this is when we were first starting to see the modern day clubs that we have today, because the disco era was all about going to a nightclub with a dance floor, not a lot of tables to sit at, and it was all about getting drunk as fast as possible. So even the type of cocktails changed during this era. And this is the first time when we were starting to see shots. So when drinks have a high sugar content, it gets the alcohol into your system faster and getting you drunk faster. Cocktails have been popular for centuries, but they were really in their heyday from the beginning of the 1900s to the end of the 1960s. And then tiki cocktails starting around the early 1930s. So with all these different things happening, this amazing cocktail culture that had grown throughout the 1900s was starting to fade into the darkness. But then, somewhere in that darkness was one of the greatest cocktails ever invented, and it was one of the most influential cocktails of all time. And that cocktail was the Jungle Bird. So the reason why this cocktail was so influential is that it was really the first of its kind. So it's a tiki cocktail, but it uses Campari. And no other tiki cocktail before it used such a bitter component like Campari. Leading up to this point, most tiki cocktails were rum-based, sometimes vodka, gin, or bourbon, and with a mixture of different types of fruit juices. And if it ever had a liqueur, it would mainly be a liqueur with spices from the Caribbean. So I'm not exactly sure how popular this cocktail was worldwide when it was created, but what's important is that it's one of the most popular cocktails today, and it's also been the inspiration for a lot of modern cocktails of this kind. So this cocktail calls for a dark rum. I'm going to be using Caruba. It's not available in Ontario, but you can get it in Alberta. As far as the US, it's available throughout the country, but it's a little bit more difficult to find. So if you want to create a substitution, you can use Appleton Estate Jamaican Rum and Gosling's Black Seal. So the Caruba isn't as funky as the Appleton, so blending the Appleton with the Gosling's tones down that high ester funk from the Jamaican rum, and it also makes it darker in color. So if you want to recreate this rum, I think the best blend are these two rums right here, which are a lot more easier to find. So this cocktail was invented in 1973 by Jeffrey Ong at the Aviary Bar at the Hilton in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It was the hotel's welcome drink, and it was named after one of the birds that they had in their aviary, and it was served in a bird glass. I'm going to be serving this in an old-fashioned glass, but if you want, you can serve this in a parrot mug because it looks like a bird. I don't like to use these kind of vessels because I like to see the cocktail, but if you want to have a little bit more fun, then you can use a mug like this. So I'm not going to be doing the original recipe. I'm going to follow the specs from Smuggler's Cove. So we're going to start off with 1.5 ounces of a dark rum. Three-quarters of an ounce of Campari. 2 ounces of pineapple juice. Half an ounce of lime juice. And half an ounce of Demerara syrup. Add ice. And shake for about 12 to 15 seconds. I'm going to put some ice cubes in the glass. And if you want, you can double strain, but I want to get that nice foam from the pineapple in the drink, so up to you. Garnish with pineapple fronds. And there you have the Jungle Bird. Okay, cheers. Oh wow, that's really good. By using a dark Jamaican rum, it gives it a little bit more character. You get some of that pot still notes coming through. You get the lingering bitterness of the Campari in the back end, but again, it's not overly bitter. It's a really nice complex drink. The rum with the pineapple gives this nice tropical vibe to it, and the bitterness from the Campari makes it a little bit more complex. So the next cocktail that I'm going to do is the Painkiller. That's right, I said it, and that's mainly because I'm going to be using Pusser's rum. Okay, so the story with this one is really interesting. So this cocktail was invented in the 1970s by Daphne Henderson at the Soggy Dollar Bar on the island of Jost Van Dyke in the British Virgin Islands. So the story goes, Charles Tobias, who was the founder of Pusser's rum, fell in love with this cocktail and tried multiple times to get the recipe from Daphne, but she wouldn't release it to him. So what he did was he reverse engineered this cocktail by using his own rum and claimed that it was even better than hers. And then in 1989 filed a US trademark on the cocktail and its ingredients. So I'm not sure if the trademark is just in the US or if it's worldwide. So where the backlash started to happen was in 2011, where Pusser sued a bar in New York City named the Painkiller, and they were serving painkillers without using Pusser's rum. So Pusser's won this lawsuit, and the bar had since changed its name. Where the backlash was starting to happen was within bartenders and bars within the industry saying, who are you to tell us we have to use exactly this rum for the painkiller? So now in bars or other videos, people are very careful to say painkiller. They're always saying this is not a painkiller. As for the bar itself, it's pretty cool how it got its name. So like I mentioned, this bar is located in Jost Van Dyke in the British Virgin Islands. So I had the opportunity to go there a few months back. So to get there, you can either go from St. Thomas or St. John in the US Virgin Islands and take a ferry to Jost Van Dyke. From there, it's a short 5-minute cab ride to the bar. So the story goes, this bar didn't have a dock. So yachts would sail up to the island, people would get off the boat, swim ashore to the bar, and by the time they got there, they would have soggy dollar bills in their pockets. And that's where the name comes for the bar, Soggy Dollar Bar. So this place isn't just a bar, it's a resort hidden in this tropical oasis. When you get off the cab, you go through this nice little path through the entry all the way to the beach. And just like the Piña Colada, I was really excited to have a painkiller where it was invented. But I was actually surprised to see that they weren't using Pusser's rum in the painkiller. They were using their own rum called Soggy Dollar Rum. So it was a good cocktail. I was just shocked to see that they weren't using Pusser's rum in the birthplace of where the painkiller was made. So I don't know what to believe. Maybe the trademark is just in the US, but I was surprised to see at the birthplace of where the painkiller was invented, they weren't using Pusser's rum. I'm also going to recommend another bar that actually uses Pusser's rum in their painkiller, and that's at the Rum Hut on the island of St. Thomas. This was a really cool bar. This little tiny hut in the middle of a parking lot. It has swings all around the side of the bar. It was a fun little place to sidle up and just have a nice painkiller cocktail. So if you wanted to recreate this Pusser's rum at home, I suggest a blend of Appleton Signature and Smith & Cross. Because Pusser's, yeah, it's very caramelly. It's got some burnt sugar notes. It's a little bit more funkier than the Appleton, so that's why I recommend maybe using 1.5 ounces of the Appleton Signature and maybe just a 1/2 ounce of Smith & Cross to get that blend of what Pusser's is if you wanted to recreate it at home. So we're going to start off with 2 ounces of Pusser's rum. An 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. Half an ounce of orange juice. And 3/4 ounce of cream of coconut. Add ice. And shake for about 12 to 15 seconds. Add some ice cubes to an old-fashioned glass. And this one I will double strain because in the Jungle Bird I got a little bit of those ice shards into the drink, so garnish with freshly grated nutmeg. And there you have the painkiller. Okay, cheers. That's a really good, nice, light sipper. The rum isn't overly powering. Nice flavor from the pineapple juice. The orange juice, that can be sometimes a little bit sweet. It's kind of mellowed out as well. What's also nicer about the drink, as we're getting closer to holiday season, you've got the nice nutmeg on top that's kind of giving you those nice winter spices. It's not that Pusser's is a bad rum. I think it's just there's a lot of backlash that happened in the industry with the lawsuit that happened. It's a good rum to use in the cocktail. So again, Pusser's isn't available in Canada, so we have no other choice but to not use Pusser's in our rum. So if you don't have access to Pusser's, again, you can use the Appleton and the Smith & Cross as a good blend to kind of replace this rum and its flavor profiles. Okay, so that's it for today. There's 3 cocktails with pineapple juice. Make sure you're using freshly juiced pineapple in your cocktails. I don't care how you get them in there. Store-bought pineapple juice would just ruin all of these cocktails. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was as much fun for you as it was for me. Hit that like and subscribe button, follow me on Instagram for more recipes, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.